Having seen the challenges in front of regulator, a cautious decision to launch Eat Right India program was taken. Now what was the rationale for Eat Right India? Because it is well established that food safety, nutrition along with food security and sustainability are closely interlinked. If we have to ensure food safety, then we have to adhere to certain basic rules and provisions of this act. It was not an easy task. A lot of deliberate thought was put in and Eat Right India movement was conceived. The challenges were huge. The burden of disease in India related to foodborne diseases is high and which was costing a substantial for an economy which is very upcoming modern. Now triple burden of malnutrition, undernutrition and micronutrient deficiencies along with rising obesity especially in urban area was really an issue to be tackled with. Non-communicable disease is again an area where immediate intervention was required. So, when deciding an approach, the interventions which were thought of were low cost, innovative, easy to implement and addressed large size of population in varied geographical areas. As we know that there is a cultural diversity and issues related to manufacturing, supply and provisioning of these items in an area which is very different and far in terms of not only distances but in terms of food habit, culture and groups. So different dietary practices were studied and behavior issues were notified and interventions were planned accordingly. It was very easy and essential that it should have been people's movement, and that's how the name Eat Right India, where regulator wanted everybody to share his part of responsibility as a stakeholder, whether it is a food manufacturer, whether it is a processor or a supplier, whether it is a regulator or whether it is a consumer. So multiple layers of various strata were studied and put into a various packages where we wanted to address a definite population's need and achieve a quantified outcome, and that's how various rates from Act, rules and regulations were bundled in a form of initiative, and these initiatives were rolled out. Now when we started implementing these initiatives, there was a large scale change, that was a model which was adopted by incorporating people, by enabling them rather than from a traditional regulatory approach. So all these interventions were innovative. The distributor leadership was an order of day. It was not a centrally driven program, it was a people's movement, and that's how the Eat Right India evolved. Now this program, since its inception in October 2018, has undergone many changes based on a lesson learned in a particular initiative, and it was modified and it started evolving based on the feedback of a concerned food business operators, consumers and regulatory approach adopted depending on a situation. Aim was to reach far, wide, deep and touch people's heart with a regulatory approach which is based on condition, a very soft, oblique, hard, depending on the need of a sector and depending on a development which was anticipated. So to tackle India's large size population with diversity, the complexity of task was enormous. Based on this, there was a food system approach which was a comprehensive approach which was adopted, in which the sectors were divided into formal and informal sector. Formal sector were a lot of things which are already in place and actions in hand were dealt in terms of rules and regulation. The informal or emerging or organized sector where majority of food businesses lie was handled in a different manner. That's how there are programs which are specific to a sector, to a population, and in every program the aim or the outcome was already quantified and the rolling down was done. This was the rationale for Eat Right India. Now coming to three basic aspects of Eat Right India is eat healthy, eat safe and eat sustainable. We know from environmental point of view, we have to reduce wastage of food in a long and complex food chain, especially in a country where population is large and the diversity itself dictates the food habits, and if there is an inadequate infrastructure, the need to ensure that whatever is available is optimally utilized without wastage is very essential. Coming back to safety aspect, the expectation and aspirations were different as the time was evolving. So various standards which started from 2011 were implemented and formulated to address whatever emerging needs are. Coming to eat healthy, that was the core, and health being a very important subject where you are aware that food is one of the risk factor for non-communicable disease was a challenge. Going by the traditional habits of high fat, sugar and salt content, it was really an innovative method to see how we started evolving in reduction of fats and associated things to come to global target of 2023 for trans fat free world. We as a regulator pitched the deadline to 2022, which is a year ahead before what the global community is looking at. But it did not happen all of a sudden. It happened in a gradual manner from 7 to 5% 2 years back, then coming down to 2%. That's how the escalatory model, and that's how the innovation which was continuous, standards were changing and things were evolving. Now coming to components of Eat Safe. Briefly, there was always a focus on combating adulteration, and not only in terms of regulatory but surveillance, it was a massive challenge. So we came up with a very nice initiative, that is Food Safety on Wheel, which is a van equipped with various rapid adulteration diagnostic kits which moves in a population from a point of a district, does not only detection of adulteration but also a surveillance, outreach and info sharing, in addition to getting people's perception correct and seeing what is the outcome of behavioral modification. For COVID, things changed suddenly in last 6 months and the requirement of hygiene became prominent. But very much before this, Schedule 4, which is a part of our regulation way back in 2011, formed a base model for various initiatives of third-party audit agency and hygiene rating. Now what evolved in a COVID time is based on the requirement, and much before the lockdown started and classical declaration of closing of certain businesses started, we came up with an advisory for all sectors how business should be run, what is important in core of business, in the premises, and challenges related to food supply chain. So that is how safety always took a front seat. Coming to Eat Healthy, various initiatives to ensure that what we eat is a balanced, diversified and sustainable. Effort was put in Eat Local, Eat Seasonal and fortification, which is a low cost intervention. Coming to sustainability issue, there was an adequate emphasis by involving NGOs of local area to ensure that food which is surplus is not wasted and gainfully used by our regulation related to this, and where responsibilities and process was made notified. About reduction of plastic and conserving water, we know what is the importance of water and it is a self-explanatory. Now coming to what has changed. Once Eat Right India was launched, as we talked of October 18, there was need to operationalize initiatives. And what could be better than after scale 5 unlock period? So we came up with the innovative idea of Eat Right Challenge. Now from main large mother program of Eat Right India, focus has started on implementing this in districts, making certain local role models for other districts to follow, and the concept was very popular by sheer registration of more than 200 districts within a span of 30 days. So Eat Right Challenge became a new order for last 2 months. Now these districts which are participating are ensuring regulatory compliance, surveillance, improving their lab infrastructure, and also going for various implementation by enhanced outreach. So a deliberate IEC component was factored in, which will address and educate people in a given area. Now the success of Eat Right Challenge was not only through selection and voluntary opting of these districts, but there was one more way in which states were engaged in more fruitful and large scale manner by signing a MOU between headquarters at Delhi and concerned state and offering wherever there was a need to augment additional resources. These resources were in terms of human resource, where contractual hiring was permitted, in terms of improving lab related issues, whether it is equipment, maintenance, addition of high-end equipment, improvement of infrastructure, and getting number of things in terms of warranty, guarantee, and sustainable supply of standards. So it was a comprehensive package. Apart from that, a dedicated funding has been made available for outreach. Now we see how the leverage of that is key factors has been done to achieve maximum efficiency and scale, which from conceptual paper to implementation stage has been evolving. Now strategy was important for deciding effectiveness of all these initiatives. So as a regulator, the strategy was firstly spread awareness, get more and more people in the fold of understanding an initiative, then capacity building, where we wanted large amount of trainers who can train food supervisor. We wanted to increase on registration and licensing, where there was a model which was required from concerned states, districts and tehsil, where local youth is involved in a self-sustainable program of Digital Mitra series. So we started from that level, that is right from village tehsil, getting more and more people in the folds of regulation by adopting registration / licenses. Now coming to hand holding, various seminars, training sessions after the awareness component were arranged, and adequate time for implementation of every change which was given. This hand holding was essential due to earlier changes which were gradual, but it took industry some time to adopt and adapt changes, and that's how hand holding was very important. Coming to regulatory actions, which slowly is getting into its place, but once the three parts, that is awareness, capacity building and hand holding, is completed. So what has changed is a traditional approach to enabling people to be self-accountable and telling businesses to go for a self-compliance. Once this self-compliance is done, a supervisory level in terms of third party audit was put to give requisite inputs to regulator to initiate regulatory actions as and when based on the risk and quantum of the segment which is affected to decide a focus because of little and restricted resources. So that is how entire strategy has been. It was a very graded, innovative and flexible approach which touched people. Now there was a requirement of not only involving people but other partners also in a process. So we went on to formalizing certain models, whether it is notified labs. On a PPP model, Ghaziabad lab, that is the national lab, is one such example where regulator has a partnership with a private party. So not only involving people into food testing, there were other examples of third party audit agency and hygiene rating agency where private parties are working not only ensuring food safety but getting into other aspect of employment and awareness generation. To quote example of surveys done by regulators through various civil societies and NGOs is also example to find the correct input to decide regulatory interventions. Coming to flagship programs, when there was a question of capacity building, we started with various colleges and universities. And what could be better than higher education institute where students from these colleges and universities are actively engaged right from a Mitra series where a person that is a food business is getting educated by this Mitra how to fill a form and how to go online. So success was from two sides. Firstly, getting student into fold of a regulator, and secondly, increasing numbers of registration / licenses. So that was a capacity building effort. Now coming to the faculties, we have dedicated faculty development program for faculties and they can graduate into national level resource person to suggest what change is required in a geographical jurisdiction based on what has been laid down formally. So these national level resource persons are going to be assets of these education institutes plus the exchange of information and knowledge in addition to skilling is going to be a force multiplier and is going to be grand success of higher education institutes engagement. We already have premium institutes, IITs, IIMs and AIMS on board, and we are tweaking with the syllabus, getting food safety the required and desired attention, and in terms of scholarship internships, providing an industrial interface where they move on ground with these businesses and not only understand implementation but understand innovations and industrial need to make the education system more and more responsive to changes which are happening. Coming to second program we launched was a fast track program which is related to food safety training. Now there is a network of training partners which was developed, and these various education institute, associations, business chambers, NGOs can enroll themselves as a training partners, thus coming together and talking about safety right from basic, specific and advanced program. Now Fast Track has been a grand success where thousands of food safety supervisors have been trained in a diversified sector right from catering and including all high risk industries. So Education Institute can get enrolled as a training partner with credibility and show that they can not only be in academics but make difference which is desired. So this was about training partners and a fast track training program. Now, when we started doing certain trainings, the feedback was very essential and we kept gathering it. Now, this program is evolving starting from regulations from 2011 to 2020, but we witnessed a major change during COVID period. We came up with e-fast track training, which was made very interesting with a first component of 2 dedicated hours on COVID related challenges. As you are aware, the spread of COVID may not be necessarily through food, because it is not food which allows it to spread, but entire food chain, the associated factor, and basically food handler, that is where the focus was. So how to maintain premises hygiene, how to ensure that the long chains are not affected, and how to improve awareness was a challenge which was successfully tackled by a regulator by launching e-fast track. And various other fast track programs depending on a sector are constantly evolving to adapt the changes of regulations and evolving challenges of food safety. Now coming to not only training, we moved a leap forward by addressing challenge where we wanted to ensure food safety right from street vendors, that is businesses with a turnover up to 12 lakhs where registration is applicable, and number of such streets which are there where number is large, the system is not formal, and need to sensitize them is more important, and improving hygiene is a main challenge under the prevailing conditions. This challenge was taken by a regulator. We came up with a program, Clean Street Food Hub, in which we started promoting a particular street by nominating, giving it tag, by successful training, and before that registering these vendors on a program. Once the registration and training is complete, assessment is done by third party, that is hygiene rating auditors, who are grading these businesses in 1-star to 5-star categories and making them visible, making them under promotion scheme of concerned tourism department. And this is a very popular program in which street vendors food safety is addressed, visibility to business is given, and from tourism promotion is also done. So the dividends are many apart from only safety. Now to make this food safety at places where very visible, where beliefs and requirement of change is more, is a BOG program where we requested places of worship to take a joint initiative wherever in the premises of such places food is given either as a food or prasad at places, to come and learn certain things about hygiene, improve the cleanliness, and have a benchmarking by certified BOG places, and it has again gained a very popularity in various places of worship. Now after addressing diversified sectors, we moved to meeting aspirations. Aspirations were many. In addition to reduction of trans fat, there were certain challenges in terms of oil, where we looked into that and launched a RUCO initiative, that is repurpose used cooking oil, where we wanted that this trans fat, which is a risk factor, should be addressed, monitored in a systematic way. So when the TPC limit is crossed after 25, we came up with innovative solutions, how to see, diagnose. Secondly, educating these businesses to give this repurposed oil and give it another purpose of forming biodiesel from this oil. So that's how from one business to another business, from one unsafe food to relatively green energy, we tackled number of stakeholders in terms of food businesses, aggregator, biodiesel plant and oil company. So variety of stakeholders were involved in launch of RUCO initiative, and we addressed a very risk factor of trans fat formation. Now coming to requirement of masses, where it was felt based on our data of anemia and other food related diseases and deficiencies, that we have to tackle the hidden hunger, that is deficiency of micronutrients. So we went ahead with the fortification, not in terms of only notifying regulations of food fortification in 2018, but making it as a successful model for various states through a formalized government program and ensuring open availability of fortified food in a market. Now, this program is getting popular, formalized, and there is a steering which committees have been formed of multiple stakeholders which are looking into aspect of manufacturing, making available this food at a very competitive cost, and ensuring that the baskets of midday meal, PDS and ICDS takes its form from one to many items and cater for need of various specific groups. Now coming to surplus food distribution, we came up with a new innovative program of Save Food and Share Food, in which surplus food is being distributed in various segments to meet the requirement of needies and having it utilized to its original and optimal use. With this, we have briefly seen the various programs which are there. Now I will dwell upon certain specific aspects of various programs. In Higher Education Institute, we did not only tweak with academic curriculum, we did not only go for auditors and hygiene rating places. We started, because of continuous changing need, a different innovative concept of Eat Right Campus. This was to form leaders right from students getting into a career. Before that, they understand the importance of what is Eat Right. Eat Right Campus was a certification process for any campus, right from schools, colleges, universities, various government offices, public places, railway stations, bus stop, and place where confined premises are also there, like jails. So Eat Right Campus was to ensure that degree of hygiene, required choices in terms of food, required awareness in terms of messages is made in a campus, in an initiative in which people understand the requirement of food safety and they become brand ambassador of program of food safety. That's how we started engaging premium campuses, and there are more than 28 campuses which have already been certified. Now coming to the fine print of higher education institutes, we have devised many programs which are dealing in various segments for students, faculties. As far as the academics part is concerned, we have certain online courses, postgraduate programs, and as far as faculty development program is concerned, we have 12 days specialized program and different visits to industries where faculty is acquainted with practical issues of food safety. So in addition to change of curriculum, a very structured program exists where institute can come forward and implement HAI initiative. Now coming to contribution of various auditors and hygiene rating agencies in a Eat Right campus is again a very amazing. Once we select a campus, it goes through various processes of certification, right from conducting initial participation, that is licenses, registration, getting a campus self-certified, seeing what are deficiencies, making that up, and having a final audit and then declaring it as a Eat Right campus. Now what is important and why it is important? Firstly, it is very essential that food which is prepared in a campus is prepared under supervision of a supervisor who is himself qualified on basic food safety program. So that is how training needs are catered. The infrastructure needs are assessed in a pre-audit where deficiencies are addressed, and awareness component is specifically built in to tell this campus beneficiaries, it can be many, to understand what is the importance of safety. Eat Right campus gives a massive visibility to a particular institute and gives them a place of a role model for others to follow. So that's how from one campuses it is to many campuses, for one student community it is to many working professionals, and unfolding this we are going to touch. The program is hardly 2 years old, but we are going to touch thousands and lakhs and crores of people with this starting from school. Now coming to hygiene rating, why it was important. Hygiene rating was a program which started initially not only to ensure the hygiene component but give visibility. We know that there are various classifications from tourism point of view, from food safety point of view, and various digital sites which are again nowadays telling about a particular eating joint, how good, qualified, quantified it is from perspective of food safety, ambience and various facets. Now surprisingly and interestingly, it was the food safety which was a core is required to be made big and bigger. That's how it is important to have hygiene rating. Now this hygiene rating not only ensures a self-compliance and sustainable change in business premises, but it is also having an impact on spreading awareness in terms of those signboards from where people can gather many impressions what is done in a hygienically rated campus. Now this hygiene rating for a business has various issues. I will quickly dwell upon some of them. Whatever is being supplied from raw material to processes to visibility of where food is prepared, lot of transparency, accountability and basically reach has been improved by a single program of hygiene rating. Now when you are having this agency which is doing hygiene rating, they are analyzing safety and hygiene issues related to a business and giving a comprehensive understanding to that business to understand its shortcomings and improve upon them. So hygiene rating has multiple issues associated with it. Now when we move from the folds of digital series, that is Mitra, to hygiene rating, gradually moving to one more sector is third party audit. When we started third party audit, it took some time for businesses to understand the requirement and auditors to move, and now program is fairly stabilized. We had notification in 2018 and which the limit of that is timeline is being extended time to time due to COVID situation to address need of food business having targets which are flexible, and final extension from September to December is given for third party audit. Now these are mandatory audits basically catering for manufacturing and high risk sectors, in addition to special like hotel, restaurants where catering is there, where special food is being prepared. So all this is being audited by a third party audit agency and with a person who is qualified, competent with requisite qualifications and more than experience of tens of such audits. So when we launched this third party audit with the intent to give a basic input to a regulator on large number of businesses of what is happening, it was very important at the same time from business perspective to tell that there should be a confidence, there should be a cooperation, there should be a trust, and that's how timelines were decided and discussed. Finalizing auditor, formulating a plan, and conducting a plan which is frozen before 7 days of audit day were some of the things to improve mutual trust, confidence, quantified, structured audit rather than an arbitrary surprise audit. So business has been given lot of accountability and at the same time certain rights to the extent of disagreeing with audit observations, putting note of dissent, and when the report is submitted to audit regulator, all these things are documented. So though it is mandatory, though it is talking about safety, participation from both ends is an important thing to make this program as a successful one. Now, while doing so, we awarded to best performers by giving a leeway of getting the second audit done and giving high risk businesses a timeline of 12 months, and similarly depending on the sector and depending on score they perform, we have made it very flexible program of meeting second audit requirement. To summing it up, for high risk scoring more than 80%, the second audit would be in 12 months. Between 50 to 80%, they have to face another audit in 9 months, and those who could not perform better due to a variety of reasons, scoring less than 50%, the next audit would be in 6 months. So that is how flexible program, awarding those who are performing, educating those who are lacking due to various reasons, and getting everybody at par and improving the food safety. So this is what the approach was, and this is how we have evolved. Now coming to the fortification, which was a requirement, we passed food safety, that is fortification regulation 2018, which is enabling regulator to advise, promote and lay down standards which is already in a place, commodities and quantities already decided, to spread public awareness, extend technical helps to industry to getting this food fortified, and also ensuring that requisite audit of this fortified food is done because of specific issues, and having made the infrastructure available in terms of notified labs capable of testing these products. So in addition to that, there was a requirement of incentivizing and recommending the subsidies, incentives and loan, which has also been put in its place. Coming to regional level, we have extended always a helping hand in terms of training of regulatory officers, educating them, having that ISC material available, and wherever we can play a role of enabler between industry, between various stakeholders, guiding them and steering this fortification program. This is what was to address a greater need, immediate need, and a very challenging time of fortification. With this, I will come to a last initiative of today's talk, is a fast track program. It is a FASTPOS program where we are evolving on a single digital platform. We have pilot launch in a region where one state out of so many were selected, and we are now moving to a full scale roll down of a program on 26th of October, where pan-India, everything will be on one digital platform, that is to say, initial licensing, your inspections, various import duties, complaints, food recall, various training, and in and all so many platform stakeholders coming to a one-stop digital solution. This is a very improvised, innovative, user-friendly program in which we are migrating in a comprehensive compliance system than only a mere licensing system. We have enabled businesses to come forward in a quantified model, standardizing their products, making KOB specific list and telling them that they can do it on their own to fulfill the requirement and reducing dependency on others, going in a digital movement of FOSCOS. And I am very sure and I am very confident that this is going to be a game changer in massive digitization effort of an authority. It is not only ensuring safety aspect, encompassing people's awareness, but it is giving us the required traceability and accountability of multiple stakeholders on a single platform. And here I come to an end of today's brief insight on various flagship programs which FSS has launched to make Eat Right India as people's movement, incorporating various stakeholder enabling actions, making it bigger, going to grassroots level, taking feedback, constantly evolving it, interventions where and a format in which it was desirable, making it a very vibrant movement. It is people's movement, and it is a Eat Right India. That is our own movement. Thank you so much for patient hearing. Take care and stay safe.